tell you what an honor it is to be here today. I've spoken to a lot of the realtor groups, and I've been at Arcade, I've been at many of your functions, your installation, your, whether there's food, I'm there. I want to tell you, just by way of my relationship with your industry, just something that my wife and I, you know my wife Judy Chu, she's more famous than I am. I always mention her name, that way people will listen to her name and then they fall asleep after I talk. But when Judy and I were looking to buy a house in Monterey Park, that was 40 years ago. And I can tell you, I met people yesterday, I forgot their names already because there's so many people I meet. But I still remember Bob Lamb, because Bob, and you remember Bob Lamb? Bob was our realtor, and he ended up being one of our best friends, because at that time, we didn't have much money, and we were moving into a relatively new area from downtown. We were trying to sell our old place. But I remember the close relationship I've had with him and the relationship I've had with the realtors. Well, today, I'm going to tell you some good news and some bad news. Which one do you want first? Okay, they're actually the same. The good news is that your profession and what you do for a living and the way that you interact with the community and your relationship with government is probably the hottest #1 topic that I've been asked about since I started running for the state senate actually ran about 4 years ago, but as I've auditioned for endorsement, that has become the #1 question. Where do you stand on housing? How do you feel about this, that, and the other? The bad news is that there's not a lot of unity on the answers. But the good news is that that's an opportunity for all of you in this room. Every one of you is probably more relevant to the political process right now than ever in the history of California. And if you don't believe me, just go and ask any elected official what the last 10 calls they got about. So, by way of introduction, I've previously served on the City Council of Monterey Park, and I served in the State Assembly. I just rotated off the largest community college district in America, that's the LA Community College District, LACCD. And the way you can remember that is it was my report card, 1A, 2 C's, and 1D. So you said, what happened to the L? Well, that's what my parents said when I gave them my report card. They said, get the L out of here. LACCD, get it? Why you guys are so asleep? Okay, so what I want to do today is to run over, is to highlight the hottest topics that you will be facing on the June and November ballots. Okay, because this is where everybody is going to be voting. They're all in various stages of qualifying except for the June ballot, which did qualify. And you are going to need to take a position, either individually or as a household, if you can find consensus in your family, or as a community, wherever you live, or as part of the Arcadia Association of Realtors, or as the state California Association of Realtors, or as a national organization, because these are life-changing, game-changing moments. So I'm going to just talk briefly about a few statistics that have driven the conversation up to you. The state's population has grown, but it has not been building houses at the same rate. Where do you think we rank as a state in terms of housing units per capita? We're number 49. We're number 49. We're near the bottom in terms of building new places for people, keeping up with our population. 7 of the 10 most expensive U.S. real estate markets are in California. 7 out of 10. And if you fast backward, is that the sign that my time is up? Someone's waving at me. Okay, if you fast backward, how many remember the foreclosure crisis that we had Okay, California has 7 out of the top 10 highest performing foreclosures. Number 7 cities in America in the top 10 were California. Fast forward here, and we are now 7 of the most. How many of you wish you had bought during the foreclosure? I know that I wish I did. The median home price in the state is $524,000. In San Francisco, it is over $1.3 million. That's for the median home price. According to analysts, this housing crisis, this housing shortage, of which you are the solution, let me stress that. You are not part of the problem, you are the solution. But you're part of a larger issue. The housing crisis is caused in California, and this is by I teach business and economics at Cal State LA. So I can tell you that this is an accurate figure. The housing crisis is causing California $140 billion a year in lost economic output. And you know what I mean by that. People come to you, they want to buy a house, right? They want to be close to where the best schools are, they want to be close to their job, et cetera, et cetera. You have to come and tell them, I'm sorry, you may have to look at a different community. So the median rent for a vacant apartment jumped an annual rate of 6% to almost $2,500. So let me tell you what is on the horizon. When you have these types of metrics, you have legislators, you have local city council members, you have people that are rushing to the ballot box to give you something to vote for, or rushing into Sacramento to give you some new bills. So what I want to do is look at a crystal ball and tell you what is coming down the pipeline. And we're going to give you that. I think there's an email that I have that I'm going to send to you, but just very briefly, there is a proposed ballot. There are 2 ways that you can get on the ballot. You can either collect signatures the way that you go to a shopping center, people say, hey, will you sign this? Or you can have the legislature put on the ballot. The legislature is putting on the ballot is a $4 billion general obligation bond that will raise about $1 billion a year. So you're going to see that. That will be coming. It's not yet quite cooked. There will be a proposal to cap the property tax rate at 1% for residential homeowners and commercial property. And unless it changes hands, assessed value can't go up more than 2%. There's a proposal to change the law to allow homeowners who are 55 or older. I don't think that's any of you. You all look like you're under 55. I don't know why they picked 55. That used to be the speed limit in California, right? That's the rate now that I drive out of my driveway to get to events. If you are 55 or older, severely disabled, you can transfer your Prop 13 assessed value to your new home, no matter where it is in the state of California, and as many times as you wish. That's on the ballot. They're gathering signatures for that. There's a separate proposal that would sever residential and commercial and require annual assessments on commercial and industrial property to keep pace with market value. It would not change anything for residential property owners. Sound familiar? That is something that's come up. And of course, as you know, there is a ballot measure, the #1 ballot measure that I've been asked about, and is to delete, cancel, and do away with the 2 most controversial words that I've heard in housing. And what are they? The initials are CH. Costa-Hawkins, anyone ever heard of that? Okay, Costa-Hawkins is the state law right now, which limits the ability of local entities like your city council to impose rent control. The new ballot measure, and I don't know if we can pull it up on the screen or not, but the new ballot measure will Is there any way of pulling it up? I guess not. Well, anyway, the bottom line is that it will give local governments the opportunity to impose its own standards of rent control. So you'll have kind of a different ability in different locations. And the reason that this causes controversy is because if you were my constituents, and unless the city council were sitting up here, then you would probably come up and be able to persuade your local government to do certain things. Right now, the local entities could say, well, I can't, my hands are tied, and they're saying, thank God, because the state has imposed the gag order, so to speak. I keep looking back and see my breakfast is ready. So that is the issue of repealing Costa-Hawkins and allowing individual entities to impose their own ballot, their own local rent control measures. So that is called the California Local Rent Control Initiative. Right now, if you want to look it up, it's number 170041. And it's going to appear on the ballot on November the 6th, the same time I'm running for office. And basically, it is going to change the way in which renters and tenants have a relationship. And basically, the issue here is who has the right to impose limits on rent. And right now, the state has frozen that ability. So let me tell you about some of the solutions that I feel are important to you. And one of the solutions that I want you to consider, how many of you remember redevelopment? Any of you remember redevelopment? Okay, redevelopment, for those of you that didn't raise your hand, and thank you for remembering that. Redevelopment was a small portion of property taxes that was dedicated to local governments, and all of you, if you live in Arcadia or you do business in Arcadia or wherever you are, your local government, just give a shout out. How many cities, where do you live? What are the cities in which you live? Sierra Madre, Pasadena, Rosemead, I heard, Arcadia, well, that's a novel one. Well, anyway, I think all of you, I think we kind of have the range here of individuals. Some of you may even live in Los Angeles. The bottom line is that what redevelopment did was it gave a orderly, specific revenue stream for local city councils to do affordable housing. Gave them, they couldn't say we don't have the money, because that money was dedicated. The bad news was that some of the local entities, even though they were given that ability for decades and decades, some of the city councils never built a single unit of affordable housing. Why are they all looking up there? Okay. I'll close. I know I'm going to be competing pretty soon with what you're looking at. They're far more good looking than I am, whoever's up on the screen. The bottom line was that some local jurisdictions were supposed to spend, well, they're supposed to spend the money on affordable housing to deal with the so-called blight. For example, if you had an RV center that everybody moved out and kind of left all their belongings behind, that was called blight. Governor Brown made a condition when I got into the legislature that he wasn't going to sign a single bill, he wasn't going to pass a budget unless we got rid of redevelopment. When that kind of got to our heads, we drank the Kool-Aid. And it was the worst possible thing yet. There are some cities that are still paying lawyers' fees because they got sued by developers who were right in the process of building housing. And that slammed down the brakes. I admire Governor Brown for many of the good things he's done. That goes without saying. But this was the worst thing that could happen, and it's possibly an indirect reason for the record number of lack of housing units and possibly homelessness. If we bring this back, we'll give local governments an orderly process. We'll give them transparency. We'll give them accountability, meaning that if they don't build those homes, then they have to lose it. The good thing about it is that it puts the power back in control of local governments. They can decide where best affordable housing can be built. They can contact the constituents that you serve and make that kind of calculation. And most important of all, they won't be able to say they don't have the money. Now, the legal argument is that redevelopment was supposed to cure blight. How many of you have ever seen a homeless person sleeping or resting as you drove by or walked by? Have any of you ever, can you raise your hand, have you ever seen any sign of homelessness? I think almost everybody in this room. If that isn't a definition of urban blight, and I'm not trying to slam people that are homeless, because many of us are probably one step removed from that based on our own economic circumstances. But that is the type of blight that we want to deal with. And we can build units, we can do them in a smart way, and then every one of you can influence your local city councilman without flying up to Sacramento. So those are some of the things that you want to look for. On the June ballot, there's going to be one ballot measure that, as you know, many homeowners are adding stormwater capture to their homes. Have you heard of stormwater capture? It's an add-on kit that you can buy, and what it does is it saves the water instead of running into the gutter. You can save it to recycle the water along, wash the dog. I know some of you using it to wash their kids. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's abuse. So it's an attempt to exclude that from the property tax assessment, because then it disincentivizes people from doing the right thing. There's no opposition to it. Look forward to it on the June ballot. There's plenty of time before November, and you'll be able to access that. I want to thank you, finally, before I close, for being part of the solution. You are the only real people sometimes that I see. Get it? Realtors. Realtors are real people. Get it? So thank you very much, and I hope that you have a productive day. And my wife Judy Chu says hello. Oh, I almost was arrested for petty theft. I took his agenda. So Dave, we'll turn it back to you. Thank you for all your leadership. Give yourselves a round of applause. You are amazing.